Welcome everyone, and thank you for watching. I'm Merida Bohanon, and this is Natural Merida's Breastfeeding Support Elevator Pitch, the extended version. This is for ENT645, and it is 28 July, so let's roll along. The starting point this week was fantastic. We segued from last week's making a visual logo, a representation of your company, to the talking logo, aka the elevator pitch. As I completed the 1 to 2 minute elevator pitch, I really struggled. I did a lot of brainstorming, but for some reason the creative juices just weren't flowing and I couldn't get past that static, this is what I do. And with a talking logo, it's so important. As John Jonish describes, the author of Duct Tape Marketing, your talking logo creates impact everywhere you use it, right? It's just like your logo, but it's your talking logo. And what it does is it creates your short statement to communicate what you do, but to the point and exciting enough to grab your listener, hopefully your ideal client, and make them wonder, I want to know more. And so as I was starting this week's extended version, I really had a breakthrough, and I'm very excited to share it with you a little bit later. So we'll move along. So with Natural Merida, the mission is pretty straightforward. We want to provide all pregnant and breastfeeding mothers with experience and fact-based guidance and support in their home or wherever they feel most comfortable. And by doing this, we give them empowerment and the courage to continue on, giving their baby the best nutrition. So what's your superpower? This is where I had the breakthrough. As you see the pictures here, we have a very strong, independent woman there, and you have one who's just crumbled down and really struggling, right? So what's your superpower? I empower some of the strongest women during some of the hardest times in their lives, right? That is so impactful. I really thought it was good. I hope everyone else thinks it's good. And if you have some comments, please don't hesitate to let me know what you think. But I was very excited. I thought it was a breakthrough. So here's my why. I am an active duty military mom of 4 with over 9 years of breastfeeding experience personally. And then I've helped other mothers in over 4 countries around the globe with issues such as poor latch, low milk supply. I've had moms who are exclusively pumping, who are struggling to kind of balance their work considerations and their work environment, especially military, we're talking about environment, and still be able to provide that beautiful nutrition to their child. I've also helped a couple of moms with tandem feeding and a lot of different roles. So I think this has really been a part of my life for the past 10 years, and being a part of this class and in this course where it's really driven the passion out of me to move forward, and I think it's wonderful. So I had my very first child in Germany. And while living in Germany, the whole lifestyle around prenatal care and postnatal care is so holistic. So for me, I was a little bit late and they wanted me to try acupuncture and acupressure, to be honest. When I thought I might be in labor, they asked me to come in and just hang out and sit there for a while, that I'd probably have the baby that day. That's what they said to me. And I ended up being there for 23 hours. So very different from what I'm going to move on to in the future, which is talking about my other births. But in Germany, after I had my very first baby in a very natural setting with a midwife, not the doctor that I had met with multiple times, but with the midwife, because doctors are only for high risk or complications. It was really kind of a weird place for me. I didn't have any family around, and so I knew I wanted to breastfeed. I knew I wanted to give my child that nutrition, and knowing it would be good for me and help me get back in shape. But I really didn't know what to do. So the hospital, I explained my concerns, and the hospital had the best in-hospital lactation consultants that I've ever met. And they were very hands-on, very thorough, and just left me feeling very empowered. Move forward a couple of days, I go home and I'm now by myself. I'm struggling, and I was able to call a couple of German, they would be considered like certified lactation consultants. I don't know what their actual certifications were, but it was common knowledge. You could just call these numbers, and for about 10 euros or about $15, $20, you'd have some in-home lactation care. It was amazing. And I took advantage of that more than I think 3 or 4 times. And then I also went back to the hospital to get that exact same empowering feeling from those lactation consultants at the hospital. So I was very well supported. I have another 2 children in other countries, and then I have my last one here in the United States of America. And with 4 of them, I definitely felt like a pro. I couldn't have any issues that I didn't know how to overcome, right? Wrong. So with that, I explained my concerns at the hospital, and I really didn't get the support that I was expecting. And when I went home, really struggled, but thankfully I was able to kind of work it out myself. I found a couple of lactation consultants in the area that did do in-home visits. And unfortunately, I just couldn't afford it. It was $75 to $150 an hour. And they wanted to pay for childcare and all of these things, or I had to go to them. If I wanted the price to be lower, I'd have to go to them. And it just wasn't feasible. We also had lactation support groups, or breastfeeding cafes, sometimes they're called. And that is a fantastic resource. But when you have 4 young ones, right, 1 being an infant and then 3 other that you have to tote around, and you have to make it in a window, that works for that cafe when that lactation consultant is hosting a group meeting, it's impossible to get individualized care. And you go there with all of your children and you can get really frustrated very quickly. So that middle picture, that beautiful breastfeeding mom, that's what all women should try to get. That's what all women deserve. And I really feel passionate about breastfeeding, and I want all women to be able to get that picture. And unfortunately, it's just not always available. So value proposition, as I talked before, passion. Passion is what led us here, and that's what I want to convey to my ideal clients. That's what I want to convey to the people that have hired me. And then you just see the despair, and I want to help women so much. I want to get them out of that despair and really lift them up and give them the tips and the strategies and help them move forward on their breastfeeding journey. It's so important. And I'm really excited. I came into this business or this industry by seeing that problem, and I want to provide that solution. And that's where that passion comes through. And I think that's my value proposition. So call to action, of course, even call to action is really kind of a call to action, right? It is very powerful. As I was reading about call to action this week, I came up with 4 or 5, 2 of them kind of go together, but 5 different calls to action that I think are very important and I definitely want to use in one way or another. So a lot like your talking logo, I want on my page a what do I do button. And if you click that, you can find out more about Natural Merida and what I do. And that's going to be back to the same thing we talked about. I empower some of the strongest women. So when you click that and you're a woman who needs help, yes, identify strongest women during some of the hardest times of their lives. And I can promise you, having gone through it, it does feel like the hardest time of your life. As I mentioned in my 1 to 2 minute elevator pitch, hearing the screams of a little infant, especially when they're yours, but even if they're not, and you know that they're frustrated and they're tired and they're angry, and most of all, they're hungry, and you're supposed to feed them and it's not working. It's some of the most, I said, mind altering and not in a good way. It brings out all those bad feels, all of that emotion that's really hard. So that would be the what do I do button. And then I like the idea of making a 2 button or a slash, find out more, and then that brings up the services that I offer. And contact Merida today. It really goes along with schedule your in-home consult today by clicking on one of those, and I don't know which one would be best, or maybe I'll use them both. But by contact Merida today, maybe that's email, and I thought that that was really a good call to action. If you're reading through and you like what you're reading, you can do a quick contact. And then for the woman who's really in the throes of it, who really needs that help right now, that individualized care in their home right now, you can schedule your in-home consult today. And I would love to have a scheduler widget built into the website that they can just go through there, and I get the notification and I accept it. And then lastly, the Let's Get Connected, that's social media. It's so important to be able to connect, especially when you have a virtual relationship. So someone stumbles upon my website, maybe they need help, and you have that call to action, Let's Get Connected. That takes that relationship one step further. And when you're thinking of the marketing hourglass, that just brings it one step closer down that funnel. It's very important. And social media and electronic connections are not going to go away. It could also be Let's Get Connected, and that goes to the email or the phone as well. And so I'm really excited about using these different calls to action in my business and see how they lead to more success or more contact with ideal clients. All right, moving along. Future prospects. Another really fantastic thing that I got out of this week was I was able to make this flyer. And this flyer, in my mind, I can hang up in breastfeeding cafes. I can hang up at different pediatricians' offices. We can hang up possibly even in the news section of the paper. But Natural Merida's Certified Breastfeeding Support, I built this flyer and I built it in Office Publisher. I added these photos from pixabay.com. They're commercial use photos. And then I added the content here on the right. So the beginning, it's kind of hard to read. The beginning, it talks about how breastfeeding is so natural and beautiful, and how the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends breastfeeding as the sole source of the baby's nutrition for at least the first 6 months of life. Then it talks about how all breastfeeding relationships are not the same. Some have struggles, and some of those struggles are very intense. And then I kind of roll into who I am. So I'm an active duty service member, a breastfeeding mother of 4, and that I'm going to be your ultimate resource. And then I list out the different resources that I offer. So newborn visits, whether they're in hospital or in home, prenatal appointments. I'm going to offer educational classes before you have the baby and after. We're going to do individualized in-home care for each family. Specialized care, so that was what I was talking about. If someone has poor weight concerns or poor supply issues, if they have painful nursing, latch issues. And then that niche that I was talking about, working mother consults. And I think that that is really going to be something I'm going to move towards in the future. And so in the fall, I'm going to launch this flyer, and I'm going to be certified as a CLC, which is a certified lactation counselor. And I will start offering my services to all the breastfeeding mothers and pregnant mothers in the area. And I'm very, very excited about it. So as we move along, that is really it. I've got my brand vision in mind. We've got the mission. And now we have my talking logo. I empower some of the strongest women during one of the hardest times of their lives. Thank you for watching. I can't wait to see you all next week.